I've got 6 brand new farmhouse inspired DIYs to share with you for under $1 with a nod towards Valentine's Day. I hope that you enjoy these. I love how they came out. Let's get started. For this project, I'm going to start out with one of these peat pots, I believe is what they're called. You can plant seedlings right in them, and I got these at the Dollar Tree. You can get them at a lot of stores, and they're very inexpensive. You know, you can buy several for a couple of dollars. And I have some jute twine, and I just put a little bit of hot glue in between the strands in order to just kind of keep them together. And we're going to wrap this whole thing. This is some jute that I picked up from a thrift store a few years ago. It was a full giant roll in its package from Hobby Lobby, brand new. It was a great, great find, and I'll be using it forever. And to start off, I'm just using some hot glue, but just be careful at the bottom that you keep it flat and flush with the bottom so that it doesn't teeter once we're all done with this. And then that first, going from the bottom row to the second row, I just try to be a little bit more careful and particular. And then once you get it going, just glue, wrap, you've all seen that done. And then once you get to the top piece, I just try to, make sure that I keep that nice and neat as well. So it's not rocket science. Once that is all done, I normally go around with a lighter to get off any hairs from the jute, but I couldn't find my lighter in my craft room. So I'm just using my heat gun. This will help at least get the glue strings off. Doesn't do anything for the fuzzy, jute, but that's all right. And then I just have this green floral foam, and I am going to cut this down. I'm just using like a scraping tool to slice this down to fit into our pot. And I am going to trim off the bottom. Yeah, just get it the right height for what you're going to need here. And I'm going to hot glue this in. Now, my recommendation would be to do something to weight it down first, but we'll get to that in a moment. I have some wood hearts. I picked these up from Hobby Lobby. Great price. It's like a pack of, 10 or 12. I've gotten some in different sizes. They're a couple of bucks, and everything I think is 60% off right now. And I'm going to paint one of them just white. And then this next one, I'm going to do the crackle effect. So I am putting on a thick coat of Mod Podge. And before that dries, you want to add on your paint. So I didn't want to dip my paintbrush that might get Mod Podge on it back into my paint. So I just poured it out onto some thick cardstock because that's what I had nearby. And the key with this is to have a good amount of paint on your paintbrush. And you're really not supposed to go over the Mod Podge more than once because you don't want to pull the Mod Podge up. And then I'm using my heat gun to, one, speed up the drying and to also increase the cracking. So I did speed this clip up a little bit, but it really happens fairly quickly. You'll be able to see the crackling begin. And you can also, from what I understand, do this with Elmer's glue if you don't have Mod Podge. Just make sure the glue is thick and that you put the paint on thick before the Mod Podge or glue is dry. And so I did this with my heat gun, but then I did set this to the side and let it fully dry and set before I moved on. Then I need to paint some beads, and I'm going to paint them on a skewer with some antique wax, and I'm going to paint a little bit of the skewer as well because this is going to be the base, the pole, the stem, the trunk, whatever you want to call it, for our topiary. And I'm just using a baby wipe and some antique wax, and I'm rubbing it all over the beads and a little bit onto the wooden skewer. And then I'm going to sandwich the tip of the skewer in between these wooden hearts. I was just messing with it. I ended up taking all of the beads off of the skewer so I can go ahead and get this attached. And I'm just going to use a good bit of glue. I'm not putting the skewer too far up the heart because I really wanted this to close down all the way around. And so I just kind of tried it out, and this is how I decided to do it. So plenty of glue first on the skewer tip. My glue gun kept getting, being weird here. And then plenty of glue, focusing mainly around the edges of the heart because I knew that the center may not fully get contact because of the skewer, and just making sure that it is really straight. And then I am going to hold this and press this while that glue cools down and sets up. And then I decided I wanted to really make sure the skewer was in there, but also to kind of fill in these gaps just a little bit. So very carefully and gently, I did squeeze in some more hot glue and just peeled off anything that kind of came out of the sides. This was the only place where obviously it couldn't meet totally flush, but it really looks great in the end. If you wanted, you could go back over with a little bit of white paint, but you really can't see it. And then we're going to thread our beads back onto our wooden skewer, and I'm going to put this into our pot. I did trim down the wooden skewer, which is fairly easy to do because they're thin, but I didn't trim it down enough at first, so I pulled it back out before the glue totally set and trimmed it down some more. But I'm just using some hot glue to help adhere that into the floral foam. And then I decided that this pot needed to be weighted down a little bit. So I had some glass beads and I'm just shoving them in the little crevices. This is what I was saying, if you want to weight this down, just because the top isn't heavy, but it is top heavy and the pot is very light. So if you use a lighter pot, maybe throw some rocks down, then some hot glue, and then the floral foam would be how I would do it if I were to do it again with the same type of pot. If you use a heavier pot, it wouldn't be a problem because it's really not that heavy of a piece on top. But anyway, cover this with some moss and just with some hot glue, and then with some moss, and then trim it up as needed. I recently finally just bought a giant bag of moss from Hobby Lobby. It is a great price and I do a lot of crafting, so I find it worth it. And I know moss is messy, but really once it's in your piece, it's really not that bad and I like the way it looks. I'm gonna use some of this cotton linen ribbon for just a simple little bow. I'm just gonna tie a little bow and add this on for an embellishment just because, I don't know, I thought it was a nice touch. Now I will say I did get the inspiration for this piece on Pinterest, but I cannot for the life of me find any attachment to a person. There is no link, there is no website, there is no video. There is nothing attached to it unless I just don't know what I'm doing on Pinterest, which is possible, but I usually can find that on other things. And so I cannot credit where I got this idea from because all I have is a picture. But I do love how this came out. If you wanted to add color, of course, add color to your heart, add color to the ribbon, but this one is a little bit more farmhouse, rustic, muted. You can just kind of add this gently in with your other decor without it like screaming Valentine's Day. And really, I feel like stuff like this can be used in your decor all year round if you like, but let me know what you guys think about it. I have this sign that I believe it was from the Dollar Tree. My mom actually gave this to me when she was decluttering some of her craft stash. And, but it doesn't matter, just a sign, a board, whatever. But because I do have this sign and it is covered with glitter, I am going to cut off the string and then I'm going to sand down the glitter. I don't need to get it all done. I'm not using an electric sander because this is like just a thin like pressed board or something. But I'm just getting a lot of the glitter off to just give me a little bit of a cleaner slate for the next step. So I'm going to, rather than try to peel off all of this paper, I'm just going to Mod Podge on some paper, and I'm using a thicker cardstock. I didn't want to risk dipping my paintbrush back in the bottle of Mod Podge and getting glitter in there because I didn't get off all of the glitter, but I'm just poured on a little bit of Mod Podge. We're going to give this a thick coat because we are using a thick cardstock. This cardstock is from Hobby Lobby. I bought a big pack of it quite a while ago, like many years ago. And it has different shades of this like wood plank look. And I'm actually getting low on it, I think, which is amazing. I thought it would never end. And I just needed 2 pieces. So I'm just gonna line this up. We are going to smooth this out, use my brayer, rub this on, and then I am going to just leave it be and let it dry. I placed something heavy on top of it to just make sure nothing was bowing or anything. And it had a good, strong adherence before we tried trimming it up. And then it's a thicker cardstock, so I didn't think the sanding method would work great. So I'm just using a little cutting tool, and I think the blades aren't super sharp on it. And this is just thicker cardstock. So it took a minute, but once I got going on it, we just trimmed off all of the excess. And then I did go lightly with a sanding block to get off little bits of paper that was left behind. I went into my stash and I pulled out a variety of things. First, I have these tumbling tower blocks from the Dollar Tree. Does anybody have these in their stash? Because I have a ton. And we are going to make letters out of different things. So first I'm going to hot glue the 3 tumbling tower blocks to make the letter L. And just the only thing with these, it's not really that big of a deal for what I'm using it for, but just a little bit of hot glue and press it together firmly so that there's not like gaps from the hot glue. But I wanted something quick here instead of something that had to, take more time to dry. And I'm just using a baby wipe, putting some antique wax on that, and then a wood heart from my pack from Hobby Lobby with some red paint. I'm using Crimson by Waverly. I am also painting like the edges of it. And I'm gonna just kind of wipe the excess off with a paper towel. And then I'm going to use some ribbon. This was from my mom as well. I think it might be from Dollar Tree. And I'm gonna cut a couple pieces here. For our V, we're going to spell love. But look around your stash, and I just love like the mixed media look of this. And this one is a little farmhouse with a little pop of color. And then I'm using some white flowers for my E. And I will say, I'm not going back and changing this. I thought about doing that for the video, and then I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna leave it in. It's fine. I do feel like these flowers don't pop enough. I wish I would have used either, if I had a different background, like a colored background, the white flowers would have been great. But I think that I should have done just plain greenery, like some boxwood or something like that, which I do have in my stash. The flowers were kind of in my mind to do, but when I look at it all finished, I wish I'd done just something with a starker contrast. But I'm just using a little bit of hot glue to glue all of our pieces in place. I kind of laid everything out first so I knew, where to start, and then I'm working my way here. And I do love the overall look of this, but like I said, I wish that I had just had a little bit of a brighter, darker green. If you are enjoying this video and you enjoy budget-friendly DIY craft home decor projects, give this video a thumbs up. It's a very easy way to help out my channel. When YouTube sees that you're liking it, they're like, hey, I wonder if somebody else will like it. And they're more likely to share my video with others. Once we have everything glued down, I'm just using a wooden skewer to punch the holes that were already there back in. I do start from the back to just show me where to go, but I do like to push from front to back. It just makes the paper smoother, and the wooden skewer was the perfect size for this. And then I just am going to thread in some twine that I had. I didn't want to use the red ribbon that was with it, but yeah, just use whatever you've got. And this makes a fun little hanging sign. I do like how this came out. As you can see from a distance, the E is a little hard to see, so I would pay more attention to that. But you know what? Real life here on this crafting channel, I'm just leaving this in. I do think the flowers would look great with a different background, but it is what it is. Let me know overall what you guys think of this project. We're going to make a mini wreath. These small wreath forms come from the Dollar Tree in a pack of 2. I got them, I think, from my mom. That is the theme. This is a Dollar Tree / mom DIY video. And I have this ribbon, which I also think I got from my mom, but it is also from Dollar Tree. Her and I have similar tastes, and we shop in the same place. She just doesn't craft nearly as much as me, so, because she doesn't have a YouTube channel. But she shared her stash with me. I wanted the more muted side of the ribbon. I just thought it looked better for what I was doing, so I'm using the back side of it. And a little bit of glue in the beginning to attach it, and we're going to wrap this around with a slight overlapping. I find that this works well for these wreath forms regardless of what you do with them. I guess unless you're doing a full floral wreath, because it just gives you something to attach glue to. So that is what we are doing here. We're going to wrap this completely. Almost any ribbon or material would work as well. And securing that really just in the beginning and the end with some glue. And I left a little gap there in the back side so that I could thread in some jute for a little hanging piece here. And then we're going to go to decorating it. So I've got these almost like a textured cardboard heart. They came in a pack of many from Hobby Lobby. And first my thought was to do these all the way around the whole wreath. And then I was like, these hearts are way too big for this wreath form to do that. I was like, this is ridiculous. So I decided to just take 3 of them. And this is another like muted with, pops of color, obviously for Valentine's Day. But still going with more of a rustic farmhouse look. I do have a video coming up with some more brightly colored Valentine's projects if that's more your style. But I always say add whatever color and patterns you want. If you want this totally neutral, do it totally neutral. If you want it all colorful, use a colorful ribbon too, you go with your own style here, but I do try to share a variety here on my channel. So I added 3 of these on there, and then I have this wooden love word. I don't know where it's from. I have no idea where it came from. Because I have no idea, it makes me think it came from a thrift store, but I could be wrong. But Hobby Lobby has a lot of different options, so has Dollar Tree at different times. And that is it for this little wreath. I like the, love at an angle and just this kind of like the more asymmetrical look here, but you can make it, do it different if you want to. But I do love how this one came out. Let me know what you guys think of this one down below. This project is super quick and simple. I picked this up at Hobby Lobby at Christmas time. It was $2.49 and I paid at least half, I think I paid half price for it. And then I have some more jute cord. Well, as if the first one I had wasn't enough, my mom offered this to me and I couldn't say no. So I have more. It's a little bit thicker than the other one. So I'm once again putting some hot glue in between the strands so that it doesn't come unraveled. And we are going to simply use this on our little wood plank board and make ourselves a little heart. And this is a nice little rustic neutral piece. Super easy and simple to do. Check out Hobby Lobby. They had these boards these signs in different shades, and they had them for fall and for Christmas. They may even have some out now for Easter. I don't know, but definitely take a look because this is clearly not a seasonal item, but the tag was seasonal. So I should have grabbed more than I did. But anyway, and Dollar Tree does have jute, but you could use ribbon. Actually, I just had another idea, but maybe I don't want to say it because maybe I'll try it in a video. But you could use a lot of different things to make your little heart. But I just like this. It's simple. It's rustic with those little plank boards and the jute cord. And this can be done in just a few minutes. I mean, it's really takes about as much time to make it as it does for the hot glue gun to heat up. I would recommend hot glue, and I did little sections at a time because I wanted to really hold it in place and let the glue set. But yeah, very simple, easy project. What do you guys think of this one? I didn't even change out the hanger on it, but you could add some beads, you could make something a little bit fancier, but I like having some more simple pieces that just kind of blend in with your everyday decor, but give a little nod to some of these smaller holidays. This little sign I picked up from Dollar General when they had some stuff that was buy one, get one free. So this was like 50 cents. So Dollar General is another great dollar store to take a look at and, get stuff to make over. I'm just using my heat gun and a scraper tool to peel off the sticker on the back, but I actually decided to do the front anyway. I've shared this with you before, but if you want to get a clean slate, rip off what you can, spray with water, put on a paper towel to let it soak, scrape, and repeat. The first time I did not let it sit for very long, so this second time I let it soak for, like 5 minutes or something, and scraped it off, and that just took care of it really easy, and it just takes a little bit of time, but it's not hard to do at all, although I think I did poke my finger there with my scraper tool. Anyways, then I do let that dry so that it's not still wet from, getting the paper off. And then I'm using a chippy brush with some white paint on this, and I'm trying to stay off the edges because I didn't want any paint there. I wanted this to just be white on the front, and I liked the contrast for the edges. Sometimes I end up painting the edges on projects because I can't keep paint off of it, but I thought I could pull it off for this one. And then another wood heart from Hobby Lobby, and just using a baby wipe and some antique wax. If you do not have antique wax, you can use some watered down brown paint and just kind of mess with the ratios and how long you let it sit on before you wipe it off. But it will give a similar look to the antique wax, which is pretty much a stain, but it doesn't stink like a stain, and it dries quickly, all of that. I am going around the edges to get that as well. But of course you could paint this a color if you wanted to, but we're going for a more neutral look for this project. I did get a little bit of paint on the edges, so I just went and sanded that down really quick. And then we're going to glue our heart on. I was having trouble with my glue stick here. And I just decided to do this at a slight little angle, but do it straight on if you want. And just press it down really good to make sure that glue, got flattened out. And then I have this twine. I don't know where this came from. It is a white and tan one. Whatever you have will work. A yarn would work as well. And I'm just doing it gathered on one side and like kind of fanning out on the other. And then I'm going to use a little bit of hot glue to secure it at the end, and I'm going to tie it into just a simple knot. And this project was inspired by a couple of different images I found. But once again, I don't know if I just had them pinned for so long or what, but there's no name or link or anything to where the inspiration came from. But I took a couple of different ideas and kind of blended them into one. I have these little metal keys that my friend Kendra, if you don't know her channel, Late Night Creations, she has sent these to me. So thank you, Kendra. I have seen some like little like wood, I don't know what the material is, at Dollar Tree before, but I have these. So this is what I'm using, just tying that in a little simple knot and with a little bit of glue because I didn't want to tie a bow and I knew I was going to cut the pieces of twine short. So I put some glue in there to just make sure it didn't come unraveled. And the key wasn't laying quite the way I wanted it to, so I just put a little dab of hot glue to help hold that in place. And that is it for this project. I really like how this one came out. Once again, that kind of neutral, more rustic vibe to it that just kind of can gently flow into your decor. If you're not big on decorating for Valentine's Day, or maybe you are, either way, I think it's a fun piece to have. This particular house I picked up at Dollar General for 50 cents. They have a lot of sales and I just buy anything that I think is easy to make over. And that's what this is from. So I am sanding it down very carefully. I wanted to leave the white border, which is raised. It's kind of hard to tell from here. And I wanted to get those words off, and I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. I didn't want to paint it, so I'm doing it very carefully. I got all of the writing off, and I was like, okay, I think I'm just going to sand off most of the white house piece there, you know, the shape of the house. And it wasn't hard, except for I was just trying to be careful and did it slow so that I didn't sand places that I wasn't intending to. I kind of focused on the edges so that it was okay if there was still some white paint, but I wanted to just kind of blend it in. And so that's what I did. I would love it if you guys would leave me a comment down below, either letting me know what one is your favorite or leave me an emoji of some kind. That interaction just helps out my channel, and I love to hear from you and know who's here watching. So for an embellishment here, I just was debating on some different hearts that I had. I decided to go with one of these wood hearts from Hobby Lobby, but I also have the chalkboard hearts from Dollar Tree, but those have a hole in them and it's pretty big, and I didn't know if I wanted to put a bow, and the bow would have been the easiest way to cover it up. So I went with one of these, and I'm painting it and then also kind of just wiping it off because I wanted it to be a little bit more rustic and muted, and this also dries faster. So I wiped it down and then just went in with a little piece of sandpaper just to kind of, make it look a little bit more muted, I guess is the best way to say it, just because I wasn't looking for something super vibrant and bright for this particular project. Then I had this little burlap heart, came in a pack from Hobby Lobby, and I thought this would be a nice kind of layering piece. So I'm going to use some hot glue. And see, I love the textured look of the house with how I sanded it. If you can see that, one, I'm covering up some of it so it didn't matter, but I really like that. It just fed into the more rustic look, I guess you could say. So putting the burlap down, I didn't press too hard because I didn't want to burn my fingers, and I knew I was just going to be putting this one on top and I could really press it into the glue. So that's what I'm doing. And I just like the layered, I think layering and little details can make a very simple project still look a little bit nicer, a little bit more high end. It's just those little details that make things special. Let me know what you guys think of this one. I do love how this one came out. This was a lot of fun, and it's just that little touch of love, which, you know, I'm fine with having love in my home all the time. That's going to wrap up today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. And if you're new here, make sure that you subscribe before you leave so that you don't miss out on my future videos. And if you made it all the way to the end of the video, let me know by leaving a heart emoji down below. I would appreciate it so much. And I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.